Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for not-so-serious weird news, TV and movie reviews, and some paranormal shenanigans. We'll also take dives into what's going on in pop culture. You can follow us on Twitter at creepin_it, on Facebook at facebook.com/creepinitrealshow, and you can also shoot us an email at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show. I'm one of your hosts, Yardley, live and direct from Atlanta, Georgia, and I want to bring in my co-hosts. First, we're going to start with Moni from the left coast. How are you doing?
I'm good. We have some good weather. I had a little mini vacation away from the kids, so life is pretty good for 2020.
I mean, that's pretty good. Our weather's been kind of damp. It was actually humid today, and it's crazy. We're in the second week of November, and it's just ridiculously unfamiliar. But how are things popping out there in the north part of Atlanta, Christy?
I can't complain, I guess. I'm doing pretty good. I'm on 3 or 4 sips into my vodka cranberry lime drink. It's actually really good. And it's been a really, really crazy week for me, but I'm hanging in there. I think regardless of your political leanings, it's kind of a shit show right now. And just trying to figure all that out is very stressful. I'm really, really happy to be doing this podcast right now. I think it was one of those things where I didn't want to do it, but then when I started getting ready to do it, I was like, oh, thank God I need this. So I'm
some good distractions.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, well, that's what's up. Well, you know what? We haven't talked about what we've been watching. It's been a while. So we're just going to run down a list of anything that we've been watching over the last month or so. For me, it's been Carnival Row. This is a show that is on Amazon Prime, and it's about a growing population of mythological immigrant creatures struggling to coexist with humans after the creatures' exotic homelands are invaded by the empires of man. The creatures are forbidden to live, love, or fly with freedom, but hope lives in the darkness. A human detective and a refugee fairy rekindle a dangerous affair despite being in an increasingly intolerant society, while the secrets to a string of gruesome murders threatens an uneasy peace of the row. You know what? I really enjoyed watching that series. Apparently, I'm very late in the game.
I've never heard of it. Where is it on? What is it on again?
It's on Amazon Prime, and once I started watching, it's got Orlando Bloom in it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, he's like the lead, the detective, and apparently it came out last year, and it was released, gosh, I think somewhere else about a year before that, I think. But yeah, it's been out for a while. Because there are people who I've talked to. I'm like, hey, have you seen this show? It's like, yeah, I saw it last year. I was like, all right, then.
Don't you hate that? You're like, I got this groundbreaking show. I just heard about it and watched it. And they're like, yeah, I've watched that like 3 years ago.
But if either of you get a chance to check it out, I'm pretty sure that you'll dig it. It's well put together. It looks great. Their use of prosthetics and CGI, it totally works. You can tell they have a decent budget. And I think that they just finished filming the first half of season 2. And I think the COVID thing is kind of slowing down productions. But it's a solid watch, so I highly recommend it.
Nice.
What have you been checking out, Moni?
I am watching, 3 episodes now into the new HBO series, The Undoing. It stars Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant, and I'm really enjoying it. I love like Gone Girl and those kind of twisty, fucked up, like rich people problem, and it certainly fits the bill for that. Of course, with those 2 actors, it's very well done. Donald Sutherland is also in it. And I think I know who done it, but there's still a lot of why and unfurling to do. It's only a 6 episode limited series. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that ends. I watched Rebecca, which I saw Christy did. So I saw that, and thanks for the reminder that I watched it as well. Rebecca is the reboot or the redoing of the original Hitchcock film, which actually is based off of a book by Daphne du Maurier. Daphne du Maurier is one of the original female horror and mystery thriller writers of the day. She is an incredible writer, and the book I highly recommend if you get a chance to read Rebecca the book. But I think the adaptation, I would say the newer one on Netflix stars Armie Hammer. I would say that it actually might have improved upon the book, and it's certainly, and I know this is blasphemous to say, improved upon the Hitchcock version, because in the Hitchcock version, the characters are so unlikable that it's just, you don't even want to be around them, and it's not believable that anyone would fall in love with them. That's just my hot take on that.
Okay. So since I don't want to reinvent this once I get you come to me, but I agree with you. I liked the movie and I liked how they put everything together, and I knew the story. I really, really struggle with somebody like loving somebody who killed his wife because she cheated on him. Like, I get it. It's another time. It's like, what about divorce? I don't know. It was
and in the first film, he's so unlikable even before you find out the spoilers that what he did, that it's just like, why are you with this dickhead?
Yeah.
You know?
And so I still had a struggle. And then I felt like she was so, and I think that's probably just a part of the time that this is supposed to be filmed in, where just a fucking doormat. And I know she used to be a companion
in the movie. In the first movie, she cries constantly. That character is just like all the damn time. Oh my god!
And it's beautifully filmed, and I'm obsessed with that era. I love that era of clothing. It's just so beautiful and classy, and I don't even know how to say it. It's just everybody who dressed in that time just look amazing. So I loved it. It was just, I'm like, really? So you just gonna really go for it and try to cover up as best you can a man that murdered his wife? And yeah, that bitch was a dog and she did a lot of bad shit, and I understand that, but then you just fucking divorce her. Like, it was a good movie. I agree with you, and I enjoyed it. That just kept nagging at me, like, I can't really 100% get behind the story, because I don't think I would go to the extremes that this bitch did for her husband who had killed his last wife. Like, just be sure you stay on his good side, girl. That's all I'm going to say.
For sure. And it does kind of remind me of movies like Chicago, or just movies or stories where nobody's really a good guy in it. And so you kind of come out with like, ugh, you know?
Exactly. So you really do have to rely on the story and the cinematography and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agreed with you. I 100% agree with you on all of that.
And then Yardley, you mentioned you watched His House. I watched it also. Did you end up seeing it?
Yes, I watched his house. I also saw Rebecca, because I think me and you, we were just kind of clowning on the accelerated pace of like the third act.
That's right.
Yeah,
gosh, this month has been a year.
Yes.
But His House was solid. I checked it out as well, so I definitely, I need to rewatch it. But I think all in all, it worked for me.
I enjoyed it. It's different than, so for the listeners, it's different than a traditional horror film. It's more sort of a societal horrors of society and the immigration process. I'm not sure if I'm happy or disturbed to know that immigration process is almost as shitty. You know, there's no kids in cages. We can't beat that, but is almost as shitty in other countries like England as it is here. And my friend has a Cameroonian immigrant that she took in, and it is like that, where they hold you basically almost in like a prison or a jail for a long time and then kind of kick you out. And at least in this story, they had a place to go to when they kicked him out too. They literally, in America, drop you at the border and just leave, and you have no resources and no one here and don't speak the language. So, I mean, on the one hand, they gave him a house. On the other hand, that house had its flaws. So recommend that you check that out. It's brilliantly acted, and it's a cool movie, but don't expect a traditional horror film. And then the other one that I watched was part of the Blumhouse family of Halloween movies, which was Black Box. Christy, I think you saw that.
Yeah,
Did you end up
Yardley
watching that?
did too, right? You saw that?
Okay.
Did you see it, Yardley?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen The Lie. That was because you guys were like about it, so that was the one I didn't watch.
No, I ended up liking Black Box much better than The Lie. It was well done, so recommend if you guys are checking out the Blumhouse series on Amazon Prime, skip The Lie and head for the Black Box.
So here's a question: aren't there other movies that all come together and tell a story? Is there 4?
Yeah, there's 2 others. I don't think I've seen them, or maybe I've seen one of the others, but the reviews are like they're under the 5 mark. Yeah, they're in the 4s. So
I've pulled it down. I pulled mine down to 4.5 just because there's a lot of bored haters out there during quarantine. I think they're just like hungry for bullshit. Like they want A-grade quality all the time with every movie, and it's just not possible. So I try to give some of it a benefit of the doubt, but I worried and I didn't pursue the rest of those because I hadn't seen The Lie. And there was something about how they are all like intertwined. So I was worried about skipping The Lie. And so I hadn't seen that yet and then moving on to the other movies. But if I can move on to the other movies and not worry about it, then I will.
Yeah, no, I would recommend The Undoing if you're into thrillers. I would recommend Rebecca. Black Box is pretty good. And I'm going to be watching I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which it looks like it's on, I think it's Netflix. It's based off of a thriller. Again, not a horror, but it's another suspense thriller. And if it's any good, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, that one's supposed to be really fucking weird. Like, I read the reviews on it, and everybody's like, whoa. So please report back.
The book is pretty fucking weird. So I'm looking forward to the film.
Oh, that's good. I watched a very unique movie last night called Spontaneous, and this is going to really sound weird, and it is weird, but it takes place in a high school, and the students start to spontaneously explode. So, like, they'll just be sitting there and then just explode. Their blood doesn't want to be in their body anymore. And I think when you really want to dig down really deep, if you want to, you don't have to, because the movie itself I thought was charming and sad, but also gory and bizarre. I believe it has some sort of weird connection to school shootings, maybe, because, you'll be sitting there and, all of a sudden just die. But that isn't an obvious thing. There's a lot of people online that are saying that's what it's about. I didn't necessarily see the correlation. But in the middle of all this crazy, these 2 students find love and a relationship, and she, it reminds me a lot of Assassination Nation, Moni. The characters are these strong-willed, crazy type kids that have unapologetically themselves, and I'm really starting to love these movies that are placed in high school because all the parents are Gen Xers. And so I'm a Gen Xer, and I so relate to these parents because their behavior, their attitudes are so mine.
Right on.
Yeah, it's such a funny, it's very much lateral to any Gen Xer. So I would recommend it. It was bizarre and weird, but I enjoyed it. We already checked out Rebecca. So this is not a horror movie, but it was really good. I literally binged it in one day. The Queen's Gambit is not a horror movie. It's not scary, but it's really good. And it's touches on drugs and addiction and alcoholism, but it's also, it's like an orphan who becomes a chess prodigy. And chess, I don't give a fuck about chess, but they really do make it interesting and really good. The story's amazing. She doesn't have family, and so just her journey through, she does eventually get adopted, and there's this really heartfelt kind of relationship with the mother and her. And of course, I'm not going to, mess up all the plot, but it is really, really good. My friend Carrie was like, I'm not speaking to you until you watch The Queen's Gambit, so I have somebody to talk to about it. And I was like, fine. And then I started watching it, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm texting her through the whole thing, and she's like, I'm so sorry, because there are these parts where I was just like, no. And she was like, I'm really sorry. Hurry up and finish. She didn't. So yes, it's great. I loved it. It's been my favorite thing to watch for a long time. So definitely want to recommend
I'll check it out. Cool.
Yeah. Now get ready for the crazy. Right, Yardley?
So y'all ready to dive in?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to do our review of The Sweet Blood of Jesus, which is a 2014 American horror film directed by Spike Lee. The plot is essentially about a wealthy anthropologist who is stabbed by an ancient African dagger and turned into a vampire. In the past, Lee has said that the film was about human beings who are addicted to blood and called it a new kind of love story. This film is a remake of the 1974 film Ganja and Hess, with original writer Bill Gunn receiving a credit as co-writer along with Lee. So for those who don't know about the 1974 film Ganja and Hess, is basically a blaxploitation horror film written and directed by Bill Gunn and starring Marlene Clark and Dwayne Jones. The film follows the exploits of an anthropologist, Dr. Hess Green, who becomes a vampire after his intelligent but unstable assistant stabs him with an ancient cursed dagger. Green falls in love with his assistant's widow, Ganja, who learns of Green's dark secret. So, and actually, I do think that overall, just like the plot, traditionally when people think about vampires, they think about people getting bit, and turning. And in this film, as we'll see, everything comes from the dagger, which I thought was kind of cool. But so the film opens up with a performer dancing in various locations around Brooklyn. As we go from there, the plot follows Dr. Hess Green, a wealthy African-American anthropologist and art collector who acquired a dagger originating in the ancient Ashanti Empire, which was an empire and kingdom from 1701 to 1957 in what is now modern-day Ghana. The Ashanti Empire was known for its military prowess, wealth, architecture, sophisticated hierarchy, and culture, which Dr. Green claims became addicted to blood transfusions. So that night, Lafayette Hightower, an emotionally unstable colleague from the museum who acquired the dagger, pays a visit to Green's impressive African art-covered Martha's Vineyard mansion. The two cordially discuss history and philosophy, but once Green is retired for the evening, Hightower becomes drunk and disheveled and climbs a tree with a noose claiming that he wants to commit suicide. Green eventually talks him down, and later that night, Hightower all of a sudden attacks and stabs Green with the Ashanti ceremonial dagger, killing him. A little bit of time goes by, and Green is shocked to being awakened unscathed. Hears a gunshot in the background, and then he discovers that Hightower had committed suicide in the bathroom. Of course, instinctively, he drinks Hightower's blood, and over time he discovers that he's invulnerable to physical harm. He can't tolerate normal food or drink, and he pretty much has an insatiable need for more blood. It gets to the point where he steals several bags of plasma from a doctor's office, but the contents of those small bags don't really satisfy him much, and he finds the need for fresh victims to get their blood. Now, I have to ask y'all, so as this movie, starts off, they really do kind of dive into it pretty quick. You know what I mean? They kind of get to the point of how things are going to go. But tonally, as the movie started, were y'all wondering that it was the type of movie, was it?
If you hadn't told me this was a horror
Yeah.
film for this show, I don't know that I would have known that it was a horror film. Even looking at the description, I guess it mentions vampirism, but looking at like the title and then looking at like the first 15 minutes is kind of a very quiet, like all gentlemen dressed up and talking philosophy, and it was a very strange film to start off with. It was awesome.
It went so fast. I felt like I was really struggling to kind of piece together what the hell was going on at first. It was like, what? I don't know if maybe it was just my state of mind that was at the time. I was, frazzled and trying to sit down and watch a movie. But I think the biggest piece for really the characters for me is the extreme behavior. Like everybody's in extremes. Like there is no middle in this movie. You're either like super, super chill or you are off the chains. And so I was kind of having a struggle of going, what the hell's going on here? Especially when he was in the tree, like screeching and he comes out and I'm like, what is going on? And so I figured it out obviously pretty quickly, but by this time I have no fucking clue what the hell's going on.
So Dr. Green ends up going to a club, and his first victim ends up being a prostitute named Lucky Mays.
This was funny. She was like, what? Now, so funny.
Now, Lucky Mays is played by Felicia Pearson, and for those who have ever watched HBO's The Wire, which I think is the greatest show of all time, she played the character Snoop, and she's been in other shows, but generally when she's in other movies, she's playing like a thuggish type character. So it was interesting that in this movie that they decided to use her, as a prostitute. So it was just such a shocking opposite of the types of characters that she tends to be cast as. So
she did great. I thought she was hysterical.
Absolutely. And basically what ends up happening, they're talking at the club and then they go back to a hotel room, and Dr. Green ends up killing her. Who shockingly, at some point she ends up awakening and like cursing at him as he runs out of the room. But a little bit later on, Dr. Green had discovered while in the bathroom after he killed her that she was HIV positive after he had drank, all of this blood. So there's a little bit of time where, he's scared because he doesn't know what's going to happen. And he ends up getting a blood test and finding out that he's not HIV positive. But I actually put this in the show notes. When he took that corkscrew, what is the knife, the little sticky part of a corkscrew? I don't think I've ever seen one with that on it. The little knife. Well, what is that for? For the cork?
What?
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
Because basically, when he was killing her, she stabbed him in the back with the wine opener, the screw thing, but it had a little knife.
Yeah, that's to cut the foil of the wine. Okay. Because a lot of people are super snobby about their wine, and they feel like if you open the cork without cutting the foil, it taints the taste of the wine.
Well, I'll tell you, I actually put in the show notes, but the visuals of him slicing her carotid artery and the way that the blood came out, that was pretty dope. They did a good job in that department for that.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have the virus, and then a few days go by, and Hightower's estranged wife, Ganja Hightower, she ends up calling the mansion and telling Green that she's looking for her husband who owes her money that she wants to retrieve before she heads to the Dominican Republic. She also requests for a place to stay and get cleaned up until she can meet her husband. So Green ends up agreeing, and after Ganja arrives, the two learn a little bit more about each other. There's also a revelation of Ganja's rocky relationship with Hightower, who, as Ganja claims, is the first person she ever wanted to see dead. After a little bit of wine, after a little bit of wine, a little bit of weed, Green confesses that he killed a human being and tells her that her husband committed suicide. Ganja essentially blows it off as Green, you're just high, and she jests that every rich man she meets ends up being fucked up. This is not too long after that, Green and Ganja become lovers. So apparently, I guess it was like the same night. They end up having sex. Green has an episode due to his bloodlust, and he ends up running from the room and confuses Ganja, who follows him and doesn't catch up with him. As Green locks her out of the room, he's trying to get his composure and drink a little bit more of the plasma that he had stolen from the blood clinic. But this kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, Christy. Like everybody's an extreme because Ganja is totally like, you know, her character is just really straightforward. It's kind of annoying but refreshing at the same
I
time.
didn't like her. Like, I found her absolutely unlikable through the whole movie. And I don't know why. I just felt like she just wasn't a nice person. I mean, I felt like she was kind of a gold digger. And I don't think, and we'll get into this later. For me, I thought she was absolutely stunning. I mean, she's gorgeous. She's funny. She has like a great wit about her, but I didn't find her likable at all. So it was kind of like, what? Really? You're just going to go with that, huh? So.
Well, Bonnie, I got to ask you, like, well, what did you think about how she kind of just overcame, you know, it just, like Christy says, it seems like when she got there, you could tell from the way she was looking at him and checking out where he lived, where this was going. I'm like, damn, you there looking for your husband?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So she was, I mean, I guess she was assessing, I guess you have to assess the situation. She's not necessarily broke either, but I just thought her character was kind of interesting, but an extreme nonetheless.
Okay, so that, first of all, she was a queen. Yes, a gold digger, but the minute she stepped on the screen, her clothing, the way she moved, her attitude, I get where Christy said she definitely was not a nice person, but she made me laugh. Like the whole time I was like, damn, this is like a queen living on Earth.
Yes.
Like, that just missed her era of being like Cleopatra or somebody, you know, just, I am here now and this is what's going to happen. You're going to get me some wine. And
oh, yeah.
she was
everybody was
amazing.
Everybody was her servant from the very beginning. It was and
yeah.
it was entertaining. So I get it. It was just like, well, I don't like her. You know?
And it wasn't get me a glass of wine. It was fetch me a glass of wine. After, and the other thing that I actually wanted to hear Christy's opinion on this is like, how are you going to call somebody and ask them for a favor and dog them out and still go that way on the phone? Like,
seriously, that, and then she's just like, I'm going to come clean up at your house. And I'm like, what? Wow. Okay. I mean, she's got some stones, and it's just bizarre to me because if she was the other guy's wife and he was so kind of, I don't know. Like, I don't think we got to know him enough in this story, so I'd be curious to know his background, but how in the hell did he handle that girl? Like, there's no fucking way. Like, in my head, I'm like, how was she married to that guy? So, yeah, I had a lot of questions about her character that, you know, of course, weren't answered, but I was just like, wow. I mean, she played that character wonderfully. I give her that. I just didn't like the character. And she was very entitled. And I guess that was appealing to this guy. So kudos to him and her.
Well, seeing as Spike Lee had funded this movie through Kickstarter, maybe we should tell him to do another Kickstarter for like the High Towers.
Right? What's up with that? Seriously.
So a day goes by, and the next morning, Green tells Ganja that he has an appointment in New York City, and Ganja tells him that she's going to end up cooking a meal for him and that he'd better be back by 9 p.m.
Is she really cooking it? Really? Sorry, come on.
Dr. Green tells her to have his butler, Seneschal, who's played by Rami Malek, to take her into town to get the needed groceries. So when Green gets to New York, we see once again that Green gravitates towards prostitutes so he can party without any kind of attachment. So he ends up meeting a single mother named Sahara in Brooklyn's Fort Greene housing projects and says he'd like some company. He eventually asks her if she wants to invite him up to her apartment, and she agrees and asks him if he wants to party. First of all, you're like, I don't know. I know that different people have different things going on and you got to get that money. However, but when you see her, you're like, how are people not kicking in the door?
Right.
Like,
she's beautiful. And I mean, just sitting on a park bench. I was thinking the same thing. I've thought for a while there that I wasn't identifying it as the projects per se. I was just seeing that there was this random woman who had a baby on a park bench, and I wasn't putting it together that she was a prostitute, which you thought he would have learned his lesson by now after the whole HIV thing. Maybe he just figured, okay, clearly that can't touch me, you know? But yeah, I was like, come on, she's a
Well,
prostitute.
if you go back and you rewatch the scene, all the signs are there. I mean, like basically the whole time he was walking there, it was like a big gate that was around. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know
Everything.
much about New York. So for me,
Yeah.
that's just like, yeah, okay, he's in the city. There's a gate. She's sitting on the park bench with her baby. Okay. You know, it just was
But
not computing for me. I am way too naive, clearly.
well, and it's also one of those scenes where you just have to pick up on certain code words and clues to kind of
Right.
know. Because I could see somebody watching that and be like, well, how did he know? But if you listen to the conversation, there are also little keys of what's going on. So it flips back to, and it goes back to Martha's Vineyard after Ganja's grocery run. And she realizes that she forgot the red wine. So Seneschal tells her that they have red wine in the cellar, but that she would have to wait until Dr. Green gets home to access it. She ends up punking him out, and he tells her where to go. And in her search for the wine, Ganja unwittingly stumbles upon her ex-husband's corpse, which is frozen in Green's wine cellar, and starts to hyperventilate. That bugged me because I'm like, Seneschal, if you my man, you know what I'm saying? You're my butler. You don't let nobody go in the wine cellar.
Yeah.
But does he
I mean?
know that's down there? Or was he just like, I was told you can't go down there? Or did he know that was there? I guess
I'm
is the
pretty
question.
sure that
I don't know. He didn't want to get himself in trouble, so he sends her. But I don't know if he knew the consequences potentially of. She goes down there, and I'm like, this bitch better die or something better happen. Right.
You know what? You're right. I don't think that he knew because then he probably would have doubled down on she didn't go down
And
there. So
hi, how about a lock on the door? I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
I know.
She probably would have like forced him to give her the key.
But yeah, I'm glad y'all are in agreement though. Like, you know what I'm saying? If that's your like, technically, is his character a butler? You would say, or what?
I mean, he's like, what's his name from Frankenstein?
Lord of the house or something.
Yeah, he's like he's that. There's one in every story like this. The one person, like, I hope, and I was literally thinking this through the whole movie. I hope he's getting really good pay. Like, what you know, what does he has no life? He waits on them hand and foot, and through the whole movie, it's apparent, you know, he doesn't do anything else. Like, the guy better be making some good money. Is all I'm saying.
And yeah, and I think that the times that they used that character, I thought that it was great because one of the best moments was when they were, you know, taking out the groceries, and she was from the time she got out the car when he's got all the groceries in his hand, and she's like, you know, take my hand and get me out of the car.
Yeah, she's like, hurry up! What's taking you so long to get me out of the car? And he's got like 5 grocery bags piled all over him, and yeah, I was like, what a? I mean, she just got there. Like that was just the thing that just kept bugging me about her. It's like, bitch, you just got into this house and you're already treating people like dog shit. It just fascinated me.
The balls on her, man.
Yes.
I never saw them, but she certainly had them. So.
I didn't like her, but I could also be like, wow, okay, well, there you are. You know, I mean, I was just like, what a bitch, man. Damn.
She's clearly sizing up the situation. So we return back to New York, and then we see Green playing with Sahara's baby Naja. And as the camera pans out, we see Sahara's bloody corpse on the bed, and that's pretty sad. But I think we all, you know, kind of assumed that.
Well, duh. Yeah, we knew that was gonna happen.
That was gonna go down. So after we see him exit the building, Green ends up returning home for dinner, and Ganja tells him that she found her husband's body in the wine cellar. So Dr. Green ends up explaining that what he told her was true, that he committed suicide. He then tells her that he's grateful that she didn't really love him and that he loves her. Later, he asks her to marry him, and she agrees. They end up disposing of Hightower's body. They get married, and on the night of their honeymoon, Green ends up stabbing Ganja with the Ashanti dagger so that she can share.
Okay, I have a problem with this.
Okay, go ahead.
He doesn't ask her if she wants to turn, like at all. He just was like, I don't ever want you to die. And then kills her. And okay, so you keep going because later I have a major fucking problem with this moment that he turned her and then ended up doing what he did. It was like, what? So you made this mess. Move on with yourself. But seriously, that pissed me off. At the end, I was like, oh, you didn't want her to die, but then you do this shit? Like, come on. Like, I was mad. So, yeah, this brought out some emotions in me. I'll just say that.
What is that? What was that movie with Matt Damon in it where they shrank down really small and like him and his wife had agreed to do it and then he did it and she changed her mind. That's what that reminds me of.
Damn.
I can't remember what it was, but yeah, that is kind of
They shrunk down. Okay,
it was a movie where they shrink everybody down to a minute, downsized. They shrink everybody down.
Okay, I gotta save this because that sounds hysterical. I gotta read.
No, it's funny. They basically shrink everybody down really small, and like they make this small community. So like the money that you had when you were full size is like 10 times if you agree to get shrank down really small. It's a funny movie. Definitely watch it.
I put it on my list.
All right. So he ends up stabbing her, and she comes back. And
yeah, she didn't come back that great. She was like, that was a struggle. Like he didn't have that kind. I mean, yeah, he had a hard time, but she really struggled.
She did. And what I wanted to ask y'all before we move on. So everything that Ganja had went through from the time that she got there to when she found her husband's body, how easy would it be for either of you to kind of like, what would your thoughts be on it? Would y'all have already bailed out, or
peace the fuck out? Yeah. What? Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. My ex-husband's corpse is in your freezer. I don't care how he died. The fact that he's in your freezer is.
But there's a wine cellar, Christy.
You know what? I like wine, but not that much. And when he was like, I'm addicted to blood. And it's like, so then you stay with him? You have blood. Like, I'm sorry, but you personally have blood in your body. So the fact that he's addicted to blood is a red flag for me. Yeah. Your ex-husband's body's in the freezer and he tells you he's addicted to blood and you're like, I'll marry you.
As Christy was stated a little bit earlier, it took Ganja a little bit more time to kind of be resurrected, so to speak. And, when she comes back, she's pretty horrified by her experience because one of the things that she remembered was that he murdered her. But Green ends up consoling her and kind of talking her through it. And he teaches her to kind of survive and to accept her new fate.
Thanks,
so
again, why didn't he just, I guess, okay, listen, if you sign up to be with somebody that's killed your ex-husband and is addicted to blood, I guess it's kind of a given that he can do this, but wouldn't he have just been like, ask, like permission or something? Like it just to me was, wow, you didn't even ask like if you could just kill her and bring her back to life and live forever. You were a selfish asshole.
No, though, Christy.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think she probably would have been like, well,
I would have been
you've
like,
already killed.
Yeah, so. You're a selfish asshole. You don't want me to die. You want me to live forever. Which I'm assuming the reason why he feels that way is because he wants her to be with him.
Yes.
So move on with that.
So Dr. ends up giving her like the dummies version of how to live with bloodlust. And a little bit of time passes. Dr. Green ends up bringing home an old female acquaintance, Tangier Chancellor. The intention was for her to be Ganja's first kill. So Ganja ends up seducing her and then strangles her. And Ganja and Dr. Green dispose of Tangier's body.
So can I just time out really quick? Because you skipped over a really important part. Right, the sex scenes in this movie were hot as shit. Holy crap.
They're
You
definitely
missed over the best parts. I'm like, hold on now. You can't just keep going over that because I was like,
you can't say.
damn.
Hey, look, I loved it all the best too because the whole time that they were kind of holding out on her turning, I'm like, thank goodness. Like I'm
Yeah.
just, oh my gosh, and also like the visuals and the way that the movie shot with like the like the white sheets, and
Yeah.
then you know what I'm saying with their skin tone, it was pretty interesting. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Those scenes were
The
all dope.
sex were hot. Yeah. So if you guys want to watch something and it doesn't make sense to you, there's still really good sex scenes in here. So y'all just need to like go for that because holy
Nice.
crap. I was like, damn, that's hot shit.
So after Ganja gets her first kill, they end up disposing of Tangier's body, and the last scene that we see of her is her waking back up, and she's pretty tormented because she knows what has happened. And I think if you think about it, there are a couple of people, the prostitute from the beginning of the movie, along with Tangier. These are two people who this has happened to, and we don't even know what they're doing now. They're just
Right.
out there. You know what I mean? But that's kind of an interesting angle. The fact that there's some loose threads that I don't mind being out there. But eventually, Dr. Green becomes pretty disillusioned, with this life, and he makes a visit to a Red Hook church, where he's moved by energetic musical performance, and he ends up approaching the altar to have the pastor lay hands on him. This is the church from the beginning of the movie that we see. But meanwhile, back at the house, Ganja ends up murdering the domestic servant, Seneschal Higginbottom.
Okay, hold on. Before you go any further, she says, I'm sorry I've been so mean to you, and then stabs him in the back and drinks his blood. Really? Really?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you have I would have been a bitch to the end if I knew I was going to kill him. I don't need to say sorry if I'm then going to turn around and fucking kill him. Like, okay.
I don't know. I could see how he could grow on her, though. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she killed him.
She probably does feel bad, but I think you don't say sorry unless you're like, man, you know what I'm saying? You're down, but I'm about to practice.
I'm sorry I've been so mean to you in the past with my horrible behavior, but now I'm going to kill you.
Seneschal did not deserve that.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, even though we didn't get a lot of time with Seneschal, I do think that I like the character.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah.
I would love to know more about him and the Hightower guy. Like, who were they? Right? His name's Hightower?
Maybe you think that Rami, I mean, in my mind, I think that his character was just kind of like someone who was there from when his parents, when Dr. Green's parents had.
So you think it's like a
passed away.
Batman situation where it was like the people that serve are like through the family or something? I don't know, but
yeah, because I think because what he was saying earlier on, it was his family was the first Black family to have a firm or something like that they were saying on Wall Street or something like that.
Right.
When they passed away, left them that left them the money or whatever. So maybe, but
didn't quite work out for Seneschal, did it?
If I had someone like that, I would definitely want Seneschal to be my guy. But so Ganja ends up murdering Seneschal, and when she searches for Green to confess that she had done it, she ends up finding him in the shadow of a cross, dying. Green ends up dying in her arms, glad to be at peace. I kind of think that the laying of hands is something that might have released whatever it is that would allow him an opportunity to not be immortal anymore and die. It's kind of what
That's an interesting I hadn't thought about it. Yeah. But yeah, maybe. Yeah, because he was clearly like able to deal with the fact that he was not wanting, because it was like an uncontrollable thing for so long. So with the blood, and then he just literally stopped.
And Ganja, even though she's sad that he died,
sorry.
So I guess it's typical that she'd be like, damn that dying shit, I already did it once, you know what I mean? So
she shed a half a tear and
So she's decided to pretty much just keeping it moving, and we're going to see where this bloodlust thing and immortality takes her. But as the movie's closing out, we end up seeing her walk out to the beach where they were married, and then Tangier appears naked and joins her to watch the sunset. So overall, I'll say I'll definitely if we're gonna do rankings on this. I mean, I would easily give it a 6 out of 10. But if I take everything into account, because it does have good watchability, just the visuals, and all of this stuff, and just the considering the movie was made for 1.4 million, I think they spent the money well because everything that they had there was specifically what it needed. But I would definitely give it like a 6.5 out of 10, probably, which is a passing grade. What about you?
Not something I would have watched myself, like had you not had us watch it for this show. It was beautiful, like dazzling physically, hot sex scenes, hot actors. I probably would only give it a 5 because it's not really like horror scary, and it's not super twisty turny, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? So yeah, that's where I'm going to go with it. But it was an interesting watch, and the movie and the music was fun.
The music was.
That's Spike Lee for you.
That was that kept me going for a while. Sometimes through things, it was a little confusing for me that I was appreciative of the back and forth musics. I think the funniest part of the music is that after people were murdered and they're drinking blood, they had the most like romantic music playing. And I just thought that was so funny because it was like all this like all these like, different types of music styles, but they saved the romantic music for when they were drinking the blood. So I thought it was just like a funny thing that they did. I had a couple of issues with this movie, and I'm just going to put them on the table. I don't like how when she was horrified that she killed somebody, he's like, no, we're giving them the gift of death. And then like, it seemed like 24 hours later, he was ready to just die and horrified by what he'd done. So I really had a hard time with the jump there that they did. And it really fucking bothered me to the point where I was like, he turned her, he didn't ask her. She gets thrown into this situation, though I'm sure she kind of understood, maybe, I don't know, in the back of her mind that this might happen to her. And then he's all like, here's my friend that I've known for my whole life, go kill her. And digs her, puts, buries her and all, no, don't be upset. This is the gift of death, and it's a gift and all this. And then magically he die immediately. Like they didn't even have really any time to have a good relationship or any. It was just, there wasn't a lot of depth to their relationship, I guess. It was kind of, that really bothered me. So I'd give it a 5.5. I enjoyed it. It was an interesting story. The cinematography was amazing. The people were great. It was great actors. They all did the part that they were supposed to do. I just felt there was a lot of holes that just kept nagging at me that I couldn't get answers to. And so I left like, why did he do this? And then just kill himself. Like, that makes no sense. You were so proud and like such a confident person about drinking blood and its addiction and blood and be excited. And then I want to die. So it was like, why did you turn her? It's just it was a weird thing for me. But I think like with the story, I think it was very Shakespearean to me. So I appreciated that. And I enjoyed what it was, the story. It just, some of it bothered me. Like there were just plot holes that just kept digging.
If I was her when he was like on the cross or whatever, I would have put a pencil in his mouth and be like, why don't you sign this place over to me?
No shit, sign everything over to me. No fucking shit.
Since you're on your way out.
I actually thought of that. I'm like, well, what happens if he dies? Like, does she get this stuff? Like, what happens, But then when I saw a naked lady walking up on the beach, I'm like, she gonna be just fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Although her eyes were a little too creepily blue for me when she was walking, I was like, oh, how come her eyes were the only ones that went weird and south?
Now, I'll tell you a part that did make me laugh was at the beginning of the movie when, after he had stolen the blood from the blood bank and he had that party and all the people were over and he had that blood in his glass, and then that lady walked up and was like, "What are you drinking?" And she takes a swig of it
Yes.
and starts heaving. It was pretty funny. I actually liked her character, like the one scene that she was in. She was pretty funny.
Yes.
But yeah, Creepers, I would definitely recommend it. Recommend a watch. You've totally, even though we gave it, 5.5, and and a 6, it's nowhere near the worst
Oh
movie
no.
that you've seen.
It's no Jeepers Creepers 2, you guys.
Yeah.
I think my
I-
biggest piece was that it was a Spike Lee film. And I think sometimes I expect way more from him. And so
Yeah.
he is so deep in his messages that there were just, and I know he was recreating a story that already existed, and he's probably doing the best that he can do with the story he's got. There was a couple of things that I felt like you could have like filled this in. It could have gone a little deeper with this, or those were the only things that really got me.
Well, the Spike Lee and Bill Gunn,
Mm-hmm.
because once again, obviously, yeah, it's a remake of Ganja and Hess, but with Bill Gunn as a co-writer along with Lee, they didn't. And at some point, I'm gonna find like a link to that movie, and I'm gonna send it to y'all. The original one, and see what y'all think about that.
Yeah.
But they kept it kind of true with a little more of a modern twist. They kind of spiced it up just a little, but they didn't venture too far from it. But it's also one of those movies, if you rewatch it, you're going to get more out of it the first time. You know what I'm saying? That you've seen it. Because it's not a movie, it's a movie that if I was like, oh, I'd watch that again. It's not, I don't think I could be one and done. I think so far I've seen it 3 times. And it gets, it just seems to move a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely recommend this, y'all. And
so I have something to plug in lieu of a idea of the surprise next show that Chrissy's going to put on for us. But I am actually working my new nonprofit, not horror related, but it's an amazing project, and we all need a little bit of feel good in 2020. Make-A-Wish San Diego is partnering with my nonprofit Creators Assemble, and we are making custom superhero posters out of the Make-A-Wish children who are participating in their program. So these are children with chronic and serious illnesses, and we are making them into their favorite superheroes so they can see themselves in that likeness and have hope and be inspired. And we are going to be printing these into posters and framing them for the kids and delivering them around Christmas time. In addition to that, we will be making the prints into an ebook, which we will sell, and proceeds will benefit both Make-A-Wish San Diego and Creators Assemble as a nonprofit. So really, really excited. You can find, if you want to support the project, even just sharing, retweeting, telling people about it is very helpful. Creatorsassemble.org has the donation link. More ways to donate are coming very soon. And also, we have a GoFundMe. You can search it. It's on our Creepin' It Real Facebook page, but it's also, you can just search Creators Assemble on GoFundMe, and you will find it very easily. We're very excited about this project. We have one family who we were doing posters for 2 of their 3 sons, who both have the same chronic, genetic, very serious illness. And the 3rd son last week was diagnosed with the same genetic illness. So,
Wow.
This is the least we can do. We actually have a surprise in store for that family, but we really need help funding so that we can pay for printing and delivery and all those kind of things. So if you guys could spread the word, that would be fantastic. But I'm tearing up just thinking about this family. It's an amazing project. The kids are very excited. Make-A-Wish is very excited. They get a lot of monetary donations, but they don't get a lot of in-kind kind of projects and attention for the individual kids. And that's something we're doing videos for the kids from the illustrators to show their process, how they're drawing the kids. And it's been really neat for all involved. So please support and share if you can.
will do. All right, Christy, do you have any announcements to make?
Not announcements per se, just to, always check out our social medias. And I am Creepin' at Christy on Instagram and on Twitter, creepin_it. And then we always have a really good time on our Facebook page. Some possible trademark news coming. I don't know if anybody really fucking cares anymore, but hopefully I'll have
I do.
I know you do. Hopefully we'll have some answers in the next week or so. So I can't say much more because I don't want to. There's a weird period of possible things that I can't really talk about. It sounds very
Stuff
true
and
crime.
things.
But I'm waiting before I officially come out and say a little bit more about what's been going on. So just with that, you guys, thank you again for all your support. We are on 3 years of doing this show, and I cannot stress enough how amazing it's been for us. You guys have given enough of support to keep us going. And that's important. I mean, we're 3 people that have so much going on in our lives with full-time jobs, but we love doing this. And so the fact that you guys are still listening means a lot to me personally. I don't know about any of the other 2 hosts, but I have a feeling it's the same for them. I mean, your ears and your downloads give us the motivation to keep going. So thank you.
Well, all right, everybody. And did you want to give your socials, Moni?
Oh, sure. I'm at Moni Bear across the board, but I'm more interested at this juncture for you guys to follow Creators Assemble as well.
All right, and you can follow me on Twitter at militant_marker. And with that being said, everybody, creep it real.